All right, you guys are missing a total jam session behind the scenes, but we're here now. Welcome to Wine Antics. I'm Jen from Wine Antics. I'm a certified wine lover, and I'm here every week with you sharing some great scenes behind the bottle, behind a wine region, behind the shenanigans that sometimes happen every week. This week we're talking with January Wiese and Matt McGinnis. They're going to talk Texas wine, y'all, because I'm Southern all of a sudden. We're going to start this off with some formal introductions, and we like to go around to our guest and ladies first. I would like to introduce you to the lovely Miss January and give her a moment to introduce herself.
I'm January Wiese. I'm the Executive Director of Texas Hill Country Wineries. We are a 52 winery member nonprofit marketing organization in the Texas Hill Country AVA. And I've been in the wine business for a long time, and I'm loving this side of the industry, getting to work with all of our different owners and winemakers and media and wine lover fans, and it's pretty amazing. So thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about Texas wine with y'all tonight.
We're very happy to have January. Next on our guest repertoire, we have Matt McGinnis, and he's going to do a little introduction of who he is and what he has to do with this whole Texas wine and beverage industry. Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Jen. I'm the founder and president of Penn & Telis. It's a marketing agency that specializes in the food and beverage industry, and we represent restaurants, bars, breweries, distilleries, and our favorite Texas wineries. So we've got a handful of Texas wineries on our roster, and we love to tell the great stories of Texas wineries in the state and around the world.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. And we look forward to hearing a little bit more from your side of the house. Last but absolutely never least, the man with the guitar behind the scenes today is Stub from CorkEnvy.com.
You all know me, and if you don't, then who cares? You're going to love me by the end of the show. Stub from CorkEnvy.com. I love Texas. I'm originally from Texas, and even though I didn't start my wine career in Texas, I'm doing my best to learn the most about Texas wine that I can. Appreciate both of you being on the show. We're excited to talk about what Texas wines are doing.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thanks for having us, Jason.
Cool. January, I want to start with you. Tell us a little bit about what you do, who you represent, and what your goals are with the organization there.
Yeah, so I represent, like I said earlier, 52 wineries across the Hill Country. The Hill Country spreads from just west of Austin, I-35 is our boundary, all the way over to Lost Maples, Vanderpool area, past Fredericksburg, and then from Lampasas all the way down to New Braunfels area, just north of San Antonio. We cover 9 million acres, 50,000 square miles. And so some of our wineries are pretty spread out. We have a couple wineries that are, 150 miles apart from one end of the Hill Country to the other. So that's really who I represent. We do have a handful of grower and associate members, but our biggest membership and what we strive to do is promote our winery members. What we do. So we've got our two biggest marketing tools, website, texaswinetrail.com, and our map and brochure that we print every year. 225,000 pieces go to wineries across the Hill Country, chambers and CVBs across the state, TxDOT travel information centers. So we really use those two pieces to market the wineries and encourage visitors to come and give them the tools that they need to plan their trip and visit. Our goals, we're actually working currently this year on a new marketing plan and looking to work with some other groups and associations and see if we can get more than just our website and our brochure. And then, of course, we do use social media and see if we can just expand those visitors and the knowledge about Texas wine and our wineries here and get the word out a little bit more.
You're promoting Texas wines. I know this being a Texan that Texans love all things Texas. So do you have a hard time convincing native Texans to taste Texas wines?
So 90% of Texas wine is actually consumed by Texans. So we do a really good job of getting it out there to Texans. And you're totally right about Texans loving Texas. Texas wine is really growing. We're not as old of a wine region as some. And so there is a little bit of a struggle because not everyone knows that we're here, Texans. I mean, across the nation, of course, but Texans themselves, not all of them know that we're here. And so that's what we struggle with. We meet new people or we go to new regions and new areas, new cities, and we tell them, come to the Texas Hill Country or here, try a Texas wine. And we get that weird Texas wine, but that's kind of a struggle.
So, okay. Well, I want to respond to that saying I am drinking right now a Texas wine. It's the Wedding Oak 2014 Sangiovese. What I have found, even though being a native Texan living outside of Texas for a couple of years now, going back and learning the Texas wine country is, at least in my opinion, and tell me if I'm wrong, January, it seems like Texas is coming into its own, doing more of some of the southern Mediterranean varietals.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. The warm climate varietals are doing really well here. We have not nailed down what our one varietal is, which we don't have to do, like Lodi,
Right.
Because we have a huge range, and they're all doing well, from Roussanne and Vermentino to Tempranillo, Sangiovese, Mourvedre. They're growing well, and they're making good wines here, and that's part of the struggle. We've planted grapes that don't do well here and tried to make wines out of them, and they didn't do so well. And so that really gave people sometimes a bad taste in their mouth for Texas wines. And now we're figuring it out, and I think that we have figured it out, and we know what grows well here, and we're still working to hone in on some more varietals and see what we can do a little bit more. But I think we've got it there with those warm climate varietals.
Matt works very hard in a different way than January does to promote Texas wines. Matt, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on once again. And let me just give you a minute or two to have you explain to the audience what you do as far as the wine and the wine business in Texas.
Thanks, Stub. Yeah, I been in the marketing business for about 26 years. And a lot of that time, my career, I was working with big companies, mostly in technology. And on the side, I was doing things with wine. So before moving to Texas 14 years ago, I worked at a winery in Oregon. I did wine sales before that in Chicago. And I moved here and really wanted to stay involved in the wine industry. So I became a wine writer and blogger. And that's how Stub and I met at the Wine Bloggers Conference 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, why am I working in technology and spending all of my free time promoting wine? Why don't I just do them as one? So about 3 years ago, I started Penn and Telis, and I've had the great fortune to work with some wineries over the years. Wedding Oak Winery that you're drinking now is one of our long-term clients, and they're fantastic to work with. But we also work with Spicewood and Yates and Fall Creek, Stonehouse, and Inwood Estates. So doing some projects here and there. And what Penn and Telis does for wineries, we have a broad mix of marketing, and we help them with everything from developing websites. In fact, we're doing one for the Texas Wine Journal right now. We write websites. We do tasting room training, write wine labels, do media relations, social media, pretty much the entire marketing mix of anything a winery could need, from, like I said, training employees to getting the word out to media. And it's fantastic to work with any number of wineries and hear their story and get to tell that story to the people so that they can enjoy Texas wine. And I wanted to go back to something you guys were just talking about with January. And there are a lot of really good wineries making fantastic wine in the state with grapes that do well in hot weather. Like I'm drinking right now a Tempranillo Rosé from Spicewood, and Tempranillo is a grape that's doing fantastic here. So is Viognier, Roussanne, but we just did a tasting with 4 wineries, a blind tasting with Texas versus World in Dallas a couple weeks ago, and we brought out a lot of different wines like this one from Fall Creek, which is a Bordeaux blend. We had Chardonnays and Cabernets, wines that people say these don't do well in Texas. But when we were comparing them to California Cabs and nice Burgundy whites, the California didn't show as well as the Texas. And the Texas Chardonnay was just absolutely delicious and did really well against the French. So even the grapes that people don't think do well in the state do really well. I mean, this state's really big with different microclimates, different growing areas. So it has to do with good growers and good winemakers who have figured out how to make great wine in this condition with the environment the way it is.
Matt, that's a good point. Can I ask real quick? I want to interrupt a little bit.
Yeah.
You just pulled out that Fall Creek Meritus.
Right.
I've had that wine before. I want to ask what vintage that is because I am all out of that Fall Creek Meritus. But I will tell you that having that blend with the Bordeaux varietals did in fact impress me. And I know I mentioned and asked January earlier about the more southern Mediterranean warmer weather grapes that we think of, but those Bordeaux varietals and that blend are amazing.
They only make the Meritus the years when the grapes are doing really well and when they can do an outstanding vintage. So 2010 is one, and the current vintage that they just released is one. So if you can grab it, do so. They sell it online, and you can get it delivered to you.
All right, Matt, what's the current vintage year, by the way?
The 2014.
It's 14. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it was just released.
Man, I want to get back just to your path here. We did meet in wine. What kind of made you make that jump from the other industries you were working in? What was so great about Texas that made you say, hey, I'm going all in on this right now?
It's been a long-term passion. I've been in and around the wine industry for a long time. So I fell in love with wine at a pretty early age, at 18, 19, when I tasted my first really good Bordeaux. And from there, right out of college, I started in an evening wine sales job. And then later in life, worked at Argyle in the tasting room as a hobby job. But, I pursued my passion on the side as a wine writer for a number of publications and my blog. And while doing that, fell so in love with it that started studying for various sommelier certifications. So now I'm a WSET level 3 advanced certified sommelier with the Court of Master Sommeliers and a certified specialist of wine and spirits. So, it's been a long time that I've gone through all that education, spent a lot of, brain cells getting there. And so it was more about that deep passion for a long time that led me to pursue it as a career rather than as a hobby.
Yeah, it's odd that you spend and use brain cells to learn more about wine and spirits as you get into it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to pop in here now that I've had a moment to take a breath and I can enjoy this lovely conversation. I hope to talk a little bit more with January in a bit. But Matt, I feel like I'm following your footsteps, maybe not going through the same exact track, but I heard you were a scholarship recipient for the Wine Blogger Scholarship, and Thea has mentioned that. It's an exciting thing, and I'm applying this year, and I'm hoping, knock on wood, to get that, and then work my way into the wine industry itself. I love that path, and I love to see people that are influential and passionate in writing and creating great content getting their way into the industry, because that makes for some of the best players, being able to write about the story, be behind the scenes, and then go tell other people's story. Do you agree? Do you feel like that path really helped you in where you are right now?
It is the exact way how I made the leap from corporate America into having my own agency. Being a wine writer not only let me express my passion and hone my skills and learn a lot more about the industry, but I got to meet some fantastic people. And getting to know winemakers and winery owners, through writing about them, they gave me my start. Wineries here in Texas said, "Hey, we love your writing. We love how you tell our story. Would you do it for us professionally?" And I can do that for you. Yes, I have to quit.
Yes, I can do that. So, let me leave my full-time job.
It's a big leap of faith, but it's really working out well, and I'm following my passion, and I get to work every day with fantastic people who are creating really great products.
Perfect.
Again, Matt and I have known each other for a couple of years now, and we have a lot of fun during the day and after hours as well together. That's one of the great things about the industry, though. You get to talk business. The industry is like a mullet. It's business during the day, party at night. It really is very mullety. And even during the party, it's all business, or mostly business at the end of the day. Matt, I love that fairly quick transition you made. And not that you didn't have a background in the business and marketing world to be able to do what you're doing, but the very quick, I'm writing as my blog because it's a passion and sort of a hobby for me. And then that quickly turned into your full-time professional focus. How exciting was that, though, from taking your hobby and then marrying that with the professional things you've done into making this basically your business now? I mean, Penn and Teller is based completely on turning not completely because you have the experience. I don't want to undersell you or your experience in business, but from taking your hobby into this is the focus of my business now.
Right. Yeah. No, it's incredibly exciting. So, but it wasn't that quick. I was writing for 7 years before I made the leap.
Okay. Let me interject here. It's like a band saying, yes, we're an overnight sensation after having been a band for 12 years. I didn't want to undersell that. It's the same thing. I just want the audience to know that. I know that about you. Didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Well, I can remember when I told my kids, like, hey, Dad's not going to be on an airplane all the time anymore. And guess what? He's going to work from home. And and they were so excited. And, it's been an amazing transition to be, an absentee father to being here. Now, granted, I still work like crazy, but at least I'm in the house a lot of the time. And now I get to focus on doing the type of work that I really love, working with people who are doing incredible things and advancing an industry in Texas.
And I'm bringing up both the lovely Texas wine advocates. And I wanted to ask a general question because I'm reading the chat here in Facebook, and I thank you everybody who's put out comments, and I thank you more so to the people that have been answering it, and accurately representing what's going on with Texas and exporting, leaving the state. I appreciate you guys out there. What do you guys like? What are we missing from Texas wine? Okay, we know that it's consumed mostly within the state, and I'm a fortunate person that actually belongs to a Texas wine club, so I'm getting a dose of it. And we went to the wine marketing and tourism conference, and we got a great dose of Texas wine there. What do you guys think that people are missing about Texas wine, since it's not making it outside of the borders very much?
You mean, like, what are they missing because they're not getting to taste it and try it?
Yeah. What are they missing?
I think, a little bit ago you said, or maybe Stub just said it, the advancements in Texas, or maybe Matt said it, sorry. The advancements in Texas wine and all of the new things that they're trying.
Yeah.
And how they've realized that sometimes you can't make an amazing red wine out of the fruit that they get. And so rosés are huge here, and they're doing really well, and they're making them so well. And the experimental stuff that they're doing, William Chris, which I know that's your wine club membership, is doing the pet not. Is that it, Matt?
Yeah, it's one of them.
Why didn't you bring that to me? Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. That's what people are missing. These winemakers and these wineries are not afraid to push the boundaries and try new stuff and see what works here and see what works for them. And they do small batches and see what works and make adjustments. And another thing they do, which is really cool, is co-ops. So there's a group of, 3 winemakers that got together and each made a little bit of same fruit, made it in their own style, and then blended it together and bottled it and sold it. Like, that's pretty cool. And so people are missing that stuff. That it's that cool factor stuff that they do here. And I'm sure they do it other places, but I'm a little biased. So,
Matt, did you have something that people are missing if they're not getting to experience Texas wine?
Yeah, there are great wineries in a lot of different states. So if you think about Michigan or Virginia or New Mexico, Colorado, New York, places you don't think about outside of Oregon, Washington, California, where there's fantastic wine made. And if you haven't tried wine from a smaller region, you're missing out on what can really happen when you've got passionate people who understand the environment where they're working and bring that knowledge and make fantastic wine in a cold region, in a hot region.
Mhm.
But there's fantastic wine made in all kinds of places in Canada, in Mexico, but in Texas in particular, it's wines that are made with people who care so much about what they're doing that the industry has expanded and has grown at about a 12% clip over the last decade, year on year, because the wine being made here is just gotten so much better that we we're selling it, So people are missing out on really good wines.
Yeah, and specifically, I was thinking of a couple varieties when I was putting out the information for this. I thoroughly love Rhone varietals coming out of there. So that's specifically what I was thinking. If you guys get a chance to join a wine club or do a tasting of Texas wine, please do. It's amazing, and I highly recommend starting at least with the Rhone varietals. Mourvedre is my favorite. I'm just saying.
Mourvedre is a really good one. As you mentioned, Tempranillo is too, but Mourvedre is doing really good here too.
Texas is so large. There's so many micro, meso, and other climates. I know most of the grapes are grown in the hill country and or up in the plains. Within those larger boundaries, there's so many of the, what micro or meso climates there that things are so different. And I love the experimental nature of Texas wine growers or grape growers and the winemakers who work with them. They're not always necessarily the same. A lot of people plant grapes, don't want to make wine. They'll sell those to winemakers, adventurous winemakers, do the best they can with them. And sometimes vice versa. Sometimes they're one and the same. I love that. So Tanat, I think, is a grape that I've tasted a lot there. It is amazing. Can
Yes.
January, you or Matt, either one talk about that or both?
Yeah, Tanat is really growing here, and we had one winery down in Comfort that planted and started with it 4 years ago, maybe, and everyone is loving it, and it does really well here. That thick skin grows well and just makes a really great wine from Texas.
All right, Matt, Tanat, what do you think from Texas? And is this a up and coming grape there? Are we going to see more Texas Tanats soon?
Absolutely. It is doing really well here. Bending Branch has made fantastic wine with it. It's so good.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of that wine, but William Chris is doing good stuff with it too. Wedding Oak Winery uses it in blends. It's fantastic. I think Texas may be doing a better job with Tanat than Uruguay.
I'm personally not going to disagree with you.
Too, like Tinto Cow, and Touriga Nacional. There's a lot of those grapes that aren't that popular in places like California. They're just incredible here.
Yeah.
Big, brown, juicy wines.
Yeah, and you're going to get big tannins even still down there. Especially the thicker skinned grapes are going to do probably better. I mean, I'm not a viticulturist, but I've worked in the wine business. I know this probably going to do better down there. I just love the adventure of Texas growers and winemakers to try different things. We're getting close to the end of the show. I'm looking at some of our chats here. It seems a popular question. We have people in New York City and California and from other places in the country asking, why can't they get Texas wines where they are, or more easily get Texas wines where they are?
Not very many of our wineries have the permits and licenses to ship into other states, and so even if if you want to be a wine club member, it's really hard to get them to ship to you unless you've been here and go through that whole process. And so that's a big reason, and that's one of the reasons that we're not on those top 5 lists. So if you see the top 5 wine states in the nation, in certain publications that list California, Oregon, Washington, and then it goes between Missouri, Virginia, and we're never listed. We're always in the other group because not much of our wine leaves the borders, and so not very many people out of state get to taste it, and it's because so much is consumed here.
And Matt, let me ask you, Texas is tied with Virginia, year to year over, top producers of wine in the country behind California, Washington, Oregon, and New York. Texas and Virginia are real close to each other. Why are more Texas wines not getting out of the state?
I can't find Virginia wines here. So, it's very rare that I can find a bottle of Barbersville wine. I
Right.
have to go to some conference or, know someone. So I think, it's similar. Um, you know, they, you might be able to find it on the East Coast, but I don't think they're shipped, uh, you know, widely in the U.S. either. So, we, frankly, while we're growing, both the acreage and the amount of wine produced here, we're not making enough to satisfy the needs of people out of state. Now, there are some
Nice.
of our bigger wineries that are a little further along that are sending wine out of state. Messina, Hoff, Fall Creek. Some others are, they've got the heft, they've got the production to do that. And there's some really good wines made. There's a group called the Texas Fine Wine Group, and I think Denise Clark is on here, and Denise represents that group, and that group is selling wine out of state. But they're, just because they're excellent wineries doesn't mean they're making a ton of it
Right.
to meet the needs of New York or California.
If you're interested in wine, like seek these things out. Look for the top producers and just start making your way down the list. And I promise you, Texas is, I know it's, top 5, maybe tied for Virginia production wise, but get down there and try some of these wines and then start making your way down the list and try something different. Matt, we always end the show with final thoughts. I want to start with you with final thoughts. Any kind of wrap up comments here?
Yeah, Texas has a long time been a tourist destination. So if you come here for the beautiful weather, for the wonderful outdoor activities, for South by Southwest, or any other reason, try Texas wine when you're in our state. And if you try it and you like it, sign up for club lists and keep drinking it. And we've got great wine here, and we want you to give it a try.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure to be here.
All right, January, thank you also for joining us. What are your final thoughts tonight, or final comments, or wrapping up anything we've discussed earlier?
Yeah, I completely agree with Matt. When you're here for South by Southwest or the music scene or the barbecue or the beach or whatever you're here for in Texas, we're right here. Texas Hill Country is right here in the middle of the state. We are 30 minutes outside of Austin. You can do a day trip and come out here and taste wines and then head back into Austin for the evening. I mean, it's accessible and the wineries are hospitable and the wines are amazing and you won't get a better experience. So when you're here for anything else, conferences, anything, come out here and visit, even if it's just for a day, and get the experience, and we know you'll come back.
But don't be afraid to get a little out of town and go see some of this beautiful landscape. Meet some great people doing some great things, very traditionally, and it's a great thing. And go taste some of these wines and have the barbecue and have the other food, the chicken fried steak, all of those things. There are wines for all of those things, and the people, regardless of what you think of it, are always going to be nice and hospitable to you. January, thank you for joining us.
Thank
You're
you.
you're a great ambassador for Texas Hill Country Wines.
Thank you.
Matt, you are also a great ambassador for the wineries and beverages and things of the region. I want to thank both of you. You're just both awesome, and love having you both on. And you make me proud to be a Texan. Drink Texas wine whenever possible. Jen, do you have any final thoughts here? Because we're probably running a little bit long right now.
A little long, but that happens. Of course,
Of
I have
course.
thoughts.
Of course
I
you
have
do.
thoughts and thank yous. Thoughts
Right.
and thank yous. I love Texas wine. Literally, William Chris Vineyards is the only wine club I belong to, and I've loved them for a good solid 3 years now. When I went out to Texas Hill Country the first time, you guys did see, and I will even pop it in again, some amazing photos from the amazing time that we had out in Texas Hill Country for the Wine Marketing and Tourism Conference. Stub didn't even know half of these photos that I was going to put up there. But it was a lot of fun. All of the hospitality that I have ever known and loved is all bundled in that big old state that is Texas, and January is such a shining example of that, and so just darn cute. Matt, on the other hand, is a troublemaker, but if you go down and see him, you will have a ton of fun, I promise. Next week, I have a very different guest because both Stub and Chris Nebraska, as we know her, are out at the Beer Marketing and Tourism Conference. So I'm here by myself behind the scenes, but I've got a guest that's kind of a big deal. His name is Mario Armstrong, and he's crossing over from the broadcast world. He's working with Al Roker Media. And he's gonna talk about his bar that he has going on his show. It's a really neat, really exciting, and I think Stubbs upset in the background because I didn't tell him about it. I haven't told anybody until right now. You know what? I gotta have my thing every once in a while. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys next week. Cheers.